Okay.
We are not anticipating Will tonight, but have received no indication that the other commissioners will not be here.
You know, I was traveling, but I'm hoping that everyone realizes that we are meeting. I didn't know, since we are on Zoom, you might assume it, but was town hall opened today?
Yes, they were going to open it for, oh, go ahead. You can answer that.
No, I was going to say we're kind of skeleton crew-ish today at town hall. I know yesterday was sort of like if you have board and commission meetings that are in person, you no longer do.
Yeah, but they said specifically that the Board of Selectmen, meaning the select board, was going to be, they were going to open town hall at 5 for that.
Oh, okay.
So, because I guess we're going to have an in-person component to it. So, but they didn't say anything about any other meetings. So, I just kind of assumed it was on. I considered asking, but then I thought, well,
that's a good point, though, for the future. If we do have those, if there's any question, we should be affirming that on our end. So we'll do that moving forward. And we have a crew of 4 to start. So we are good to go, Madam Chair, whenever you're ready.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. And Alex, I'm just assuming that you were behind the plow. Where are you now?
I'm fortunately not still awake. We got a little bit of time to recharge, but yeah, I was out in the muck for a good deal there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you for that and
Sure.
everything else you're doing and for being here. And Jake, I don't know you. You're muted.
Jake's going to be a guest star for our first agenda item here.
He might be. Okay. All right. And we're okay to start with 3 commissioners and an associate?
We have 4 with Sam and Marion as associates, so we're good to go.
Okay. As long as that works. Very good. Well, let's see. So we've got an agenda before us. Are there any modifications to it?
Not on my end. We're staying pretty streamlined tonight.
Good. First order of business is to take a look at the minutes from February 3rd. Have people had a chance to look at them? Any comments?
I did look at them, and I would move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. Hearing none. Sam?
Yes.
Werner?
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So those minutes are approved. We're 2 minutes in advance of our 7:05 item, but it's probably okay for us to go ahead with the comprehensive plan update and outreach. And Jake, welcome and glad you're here with us.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I see some new faces. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Jake Collins, and I've been in the planning department for about 5 years now. The first 2 or so were spent as a preservation planner, and now I'm the community planner, working primarily on the comprehensive plan. So I'm going to share my screen. Great. Can everyone see it? Are we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So the real purpose of this presentation is twofold. One is to provide a brief update on what we've done in the comprehensive planning process. And the second is to explain how the public, including you, can participate really over this next week. So with that, I want to start off with what we've done. I understand this is a lot of text. I don't expect you all to read it now. Alex has put it in the agenda packet, so you can feel free to go back and look at it at length later. But we are about 18 months into our planning process. We anticipate the plan will be done in July of this year, so we're coming up on our deadline. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with the comprehensive plan as others, the comprehensive plan aims to set a 15-year vision and roadmap for the town's land use future. develop policies that provide direction, not only for you as a board and commission, but also for town departments, basically ensuring alignment, providing a framework to guide future zoning changes. I always like to throw in that this plan will not rezone anything. I don't know how much that matters to you, but other boards have asked. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. Any sort of changes will still have to be approved by town meeting or any relevant body. And then it'll act as a reference for the town when we prioritize future investment. So that kind of goes hand in hand with the second point. So what we've heard last year, kind of at the kickoff of the process, we went out for visioning participation or engagement rather. So we had an online survey that had 571 responses. We had a workshop that drew about 120 people. And, you know, it was pretty great showing at that time. That led us to develop these plan themes. So these will kind of act as chapters, and each one has subtopics that I can share if anyone is interested. But while developing these themes, we realized that nothing really fits neatly and that we shouldn't be siloing. This is meant to be a holistic, comprehensive plan that everyone can get behind, that has something for everyone, and that helps meet the needs of all Brookliners. So this month, we've gone out for our second round of engagement. And you may be wondering why now? It's been over a year since we last went out. We are getting ready to start drafting the plan. So the feedback we receive will inform the plan's goals and strategies. We have a really excellent comprehensive plan steering committee comprised of 15 members. You know, some serve on other boards, some it's their first time in local government, but they all have something really excellent to offer. But that doesn't negate the need for public participation and input, so we need to hear for you. And of course, this plan is a proactive plan. We want to make sure that we're all aligned and moving forward at the same pace with the same ideas now rather than 5 years in the future when someone or some group realizes, hey, this is incorrect or shouldn't have happened this way. So you may be wondering what we need you to do. And there are 4 different activities kind of in our engagement package. The first is to comment on a draft vision statement for the town's future. So the steering committee spent quite a bit of time developing this vision statement, and they think it's pretty good, but they want to make sure that everyone sees value in it. And since it'll act as kind of the crux of the plan, everything we do will refer to that. Share your priorities across plan themes. So those 6 chapters plus equity that I highlighted above, we're asking for priorities. It will not only help us with timing, but also with, you know, allocating funding and resources. Third, provide your opinion on future housing and commercial growth. So people think like, or people have asked me rather, why have you put such an emphasis on housing here? And housing has proven to be one of the more controversial topics that we have begun tackling, but we have not yet completely tackled. So we really need to hear from you, hear about growth, hear about what you see for your neighborhoods, for your public spaces, for your public-private spaces, everything, and you know, what would suit your needs. So that is a really interesting activity that just kind of asks you to really envision Brookline in the year 2040. What does it look like? How many people are around? Is it bustling? Is it the same? And that is reflected in this chart. And 4, which I personally feel is the most fun part, but others may disagree, is we're asking you to indicate your preferred types and locations for residential development. So you answer question number 3, or activity number 3, move on to number 4. You may say, I want high density near transit, which would allow us to free up some space on the lot. that we can use as open space or recreation space, whatever it may be. And what we have done is we've broken the town down into 5 distinct areas, and it's kind of opt-in. If you want to contribute to one area, area 1 is St. Mary's, for example, you can fill that out and then skip the rest. You can answer 1 through 5, all 5, whatever you feel confident answering. And so we now have 2 ways to get involved, and I will add a third that I'm excited about. First is to host a meeting in a box. So if you belong to a neighborhood association or a group that really has some great opinions or ideas, you can host a meeting in a box in your own schedule. Basically, you download the materials from our website, connect with your group at a time, and we provide a facilitation guide as well as a sheet to log all your notes. So that's great for those who really are passionate about a particular cause and want to get at like the real core need of their group. One great thing about this is we actually added an additional question here that is not available in the survey. And I hesitate to even call it a question because it's make up your own question. Tell us what you need, help us get to the core of your needs. So that's been great. People have been really enjoying it thus far. The second, much easier, is taking an online survey. So, it has all 4 activities that I mentioned above. You can take it from the comfort of your home. You can start it, go back to it. It takes, on average, about 30 to 45 minutes. So we are asking for quite a bit. But we have noticed thus far that we have received some really, really excellent feedback. Very few people are actually just pressing buttons and moving on. And the meeting in a box, the deadline is March 9th. So that is a week from, I believe, Monday. And the survey closes this Sunday at midnight, I believe. So this is a lot, I understand. So if you can't contribute now, I know we're kind of at the end of the process. Don't worry. We being me and my colleagues in the planning department, we're returning to you this spring to get feedback on these planned recommendations and strategies that impact the work you do. So one thing I do want to highlight here is that public feedback is really only one component that will help us identify these priorities, recommendations, and strategies. Beginning, I believe, in the pre-planning process, the consultant team were working with Agency Landscape and Planning out of Cambridge, started reviewing existing plans. So everything from open space plans to the housing production plan, everything in between. And they were looking at what these plans recommended and what strategies, basically what they could offer. And that was really kind of the first step. Everything else will be synthesized. We'll review it with a steering committee and your departments, of course, before bringing it back to you. But then the second to last step is really bringing it to you. Make sure that it works for you. That is something that you can get behind, support, and that you feel it's feasible. I mean, you are experts in your field. You know this area of Brookline better than anyone else. And we want to make sure that we are correct in our choices. So with that, I conclude my presentation. I have a few links that once again can be found in the agenda packet. So if you want to go back and cover a specific topic, we post all our meeting recordings, the survey, and the meeting in a box materials. If you have any questions about the comprehensive plan, we do have a dedicated website. You are also, of course, more than welcome to email me at the letter J Collins at brooklinema.gov. And that concludes my presentation.
Thanks very much, Jake. Any questions from the commission? Pam?
Yeah, so I just wanted to, just was sort of occurring to me now, typically on these things, does the commission like discuss the plan and make some comments on behalf of the commission, or is this only sort of individual input?
So right now we're looking for individual input. Later in the process, we will come back and request probably feedback from the entire commission.
Okay.
And would that be something, Jake, where you'd be looking for a letter of support from the commission that would go into the plan, or is that tangential?
So that's to be determined at this time. It'll likely be a presentation like I gave tonight, where we'll send it to you in advance. You'll be able to comment, flag anything, show support for anything. It may end up being a letter. It may easily enough be just saying we have the support of the Conservation Commission in this area.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Nobody from our commission is on the comprehensive plan steering committee. Is that right?
I believe that is correct. Very few boards are actually represented.
I mean, it sounds like in addition to taking the survey, it would be helpful for us to sort of take a look at the draft at this point so we can anticipate what, might be in our bailiwick. It sounds very, appropriate that you're going to bring this to us as a commission before it's finalized, but probably the sooner we understand it, the better. Is that right?
Yes. So I do want to clarify that we haven't reviewed any portion of the plan yet. They are working on it. The consultant team is working on it, and of course, waiting for all the public input before actually, publishing anything.
And I saw, who is the consultant and what's that relationship?
Yeah, they're really excellent. So they are Agency Landscape and Planning out of Cambridge, Mass. They responded to the RFP, I believe, in early 2024. They were one of 3 candidates. They've done quite a bit of comprehensive planning, master planning, really, really exceptional group. And we are working with a director, a principal, and then an associate there.
Very interesting. Well, it's a very comprehensive process leading into this plan. That's clear. Pam, another question.
Yeah, I just is really just a quick comment. I mean, I actually did the online survey.
Oh, great.
And there are questions about open space in there. I think they tended to, I think just how it's set up and just because of, what's on people's minds now, housing seemed to kind of take the center stage. I think that's fair to say. And obviously there's some, some trade-offs there, here in North Brookline. I thought we needed more open space, and I'm sure many people think all that extra housing needs to go here too. So, it's hard to say how, how these trade-offs are all gonna get worked out, but anyway. But you do have that, there is open, there are some open space things, in the mix.
Jake, I was going to ask, speaking of what Pam just said, could you give a quick kind of overview of how this plan talks a little bit about open space and what some of the trajectory that seems to be moving in that direction is, as our commission here was responsible for working on the open space and recreation plan. And I think if folks are unfamiliar with the current draft of the comprehensive plan, if you could just give a few bullets on how those overlap.
Absolutely. Yes. I do want to, well, I can't find it at this time, but it'll be posted to the website likely tomorrow. It's interesting. So open space has popped up as a priority now several times throughout the planning process, both from visioning to this current engagement. Last night, the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee reviewed kind of what we're seeing so far as results from the online survey. And what has risen to the top as the #1 priority for the most number of people of respondents is open space. So, it's clearly top of mind for a lot of people. We understand that any growth impacts open space. And, by, sorry, let me find that. I'll send it to you later. But we understand it's a key component of the plan. And in fact, in this most recent engagement survey, we have highlighted a few key statistics from all 5 areas, one of which is open space. And as Pamela mentioned, Brookline has constraints. It's been difficult. And so yes, I expect it to play a big role. It is seen as a trade-off. It is seen as something that is important to many members of the group and something that we just cannot ignore going forward, especially given Brookline's limited space.
Great, thanks, Jake.
I just have a very practical question, which is, it seems to me that in the last few months, I've seen several questionnaires or surveys online from the town, and I sort of think that I have done this, but I don't really remember, to tell you the truth. If I try, is there a way for me to find out if I did it? Or if I just go and try to do it again, will it tell me that, oh, you've already done this?
It should, and if
Okay.
it doesn't, the questions are pretty identifiable. So it's pretty unlike any of the other surveys you'll find around town. So you should, I know.
Anything else? All right. Well, Jake, thank you very much for the presentation, and those of us who haven't taken the survey will try to slide in before the March 1st deadline.
Thank you. And this isn't the last you'll see of me. So thank you for your time.
You again. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Jake.
All right. Moving along. 7:25. Yeah, we're just close enough. Discussion regarding administrative review of projects within the Wetlands Protection Act and the Brookline Wetland Bylaw jurisdiction.
Yeah, so I'll kick us off here. So this developed a little bit organically from a previous meeting, but one of the things that I thought might be helpful is for the commission to chat a little bit about what administrative approval kind of means when we talk about that. Basically, in my role here and what I can approve outside of a meeting, and then look and see if we wanted to take any steps to formalize that. So by which I mean, is there a form or application someone can fill out? Is there a specific letter template someone fills out? Or is it just sort of formally kind of documented the way I do it now? To make it as easy and clean as possible for myself and Rebecca as the administrators, for the commission to have clear information, and for the applicant to have clear and accurate information. So I guess I just wanted to open that discussion a little bit as an open discussion to the commission and see what your thoughts are on, I guess, previous administrative approval and your thoughts on that. And then again, in the agenda packet, I attached what Newton does as not that that's the definition of what to do, but as an example of what a commission could do as in terms of an administrative approval form. That would be something that, again, if we wanted to move forward here, probably use that as a jumping off point if we were looking at some kind of documentation, but want to make sure that all the interests of our own bylaw are reflected, as well as the interests of the commission. So we'll bounce it to you folks.
Thank you. Pam, your hand's up.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I wanted this to be on the agenda because it's, some things that came up at the last meeting about communications, and it's been a topic of, I'm on the MACC board, and I've learned through that how administrative approvals happen in other towns. I was aware of Newton's, that they have a system, and I think it does vary quite a bit sort of from town to town, how these things are handled. I think as far as I can tell, it is, fairly common for commissions to have situations where they're told, you don't need to file on that. And it may be a situation where, they have been expecting filings, but there's so many coming in, like that happened down in Falmouth, where there's a tree bark disease thing affecting pitch pines. And they just get too many people. They should be taken out no matter where they are, because the disease spreads, but they just told people to stop asking about it, just take them out. So that's my understanding anyway. So there's that kind of situation. There's maybe small things that come up. So I think it's not uncommon for commissions to want to have a way to handle these small things. So, and I think that, the question about getting in writing or not, that's, I think can be handled differently. I did want to say though, that this topic, did come up in the Massachusetts READY Act, the environmental
Sure.
bond bill that had all that money going to many different wonderful things for the environment, but there was included in the Mass READY Act some revisions to the 13140, the the Wetlands Protection Act, and what it would allow. I happen to have a copy of this thing, so I'll just tell you briefly what it says. It allows the department to designate by regulation certain types of proposed work that will have an insignificant wetlands impact and may be approved by the conservation agent or conservation commission chair, or by the department in writing and without a notice of intent or determination or determination and without a public hearing. So it would, sort of sanction this process has been going on informally for a rather long time. And the approval may include any conditions necessary to further the interests of the act. And then it also says a copy of the approval, so it would be in writing, shall be sent to the department at the same time it is sent to the applicant, and the department shall have 7 days from receipt to revoke the application. So that's what it says now in the good, bad, or indifferent. That's what it says now in the statute. So, and I think that, I think that the idea, really is that there should be some kind of a paper trail, and that it should, if it's sent to DEP, then everybody knows what's going on in case they get calls about what's going on. So that's the proposal. So it may, that's in in this bill, and I don't know what's going to happen with the bill. I mean, I assume it's going to get passed for much of it, the funding and everything. What's going to happen with the wetlands sections, I don't know about that, but they'll probably get passed too. But I don't think this one is controversial. So anyway, but it's just good to know about that, because whatever we do probably should, reflect, something along these lines.
Do you feel like, Pam, it would be better to wait until that has some sort of, that's taking ground and there are example templates provided?
Yeah, I think so. I think it probably, I think it's good to talk about it now, begin thinking about it and think about, the circumstances. And I think putting something in writing is not a bad thing, because otherwise, communications can get, cannot be clear with somebody who thinks they heard something, and may be sure they heard something and may have heard something, but I think clarity is a good thing. On the other hand, you don't want to get too. Some things may come in that are don't seem to even rise to that level. Someone wants to know if they can plant some daffodil bulbs in their lawn, which is, in the buffer zone. There's a pond, 90 feet away. There's only, there are only so many hours in the day to handle very small things that may come in that, I don't think it's the sort of thing where, most commissions would think paperwork was necessary for that kind of activity.
And I think some of it from my perspective is trying to make it as turnover proof, as staff proof as possible, as make sure that we have all that objective info available, so that also if it somehow comes across another staffer's information and someone was repaving their driveway, which is something that is perfectly allowed, that we have a piece of paper somewhere that says, yes, you can repave your driveway, even if it's just a 45-second PDF that they filed and that we approved. That's where kind of my thinking is at, just so, again, we don't have to rely on memories. We don't have to rely on things that may have happened in the past. And then again, what I require and what is written in our order of conditions for many of these projects is that their certificate of compliance has to reflect every change that was approved and when it was approved and things like that. And having done some of the backtracking and homework on putting those and helping the applicants put those cover letters together, there's some detective work in there to find out when did they come to the commission, when were they approved from a site visit, when were they, and if that is suddenly just an addendum in the file of a couple of PDFs that said, this is when Alex said we could put the fence in, and this is when we went to the commission because we wanted to changed it to a rain garden or something like that. I think if it's a little more admin work, maybe on our end now, but I think it will pay off by a factor down the line.
Yeah.
When it comes time to wrap up permits, or if there's a question as to who said yes and when did they say yes, or did they say yes, it could clear up a lot of that. But I think what you're saying, Pam, is that we start putting some of this in motion, but don't pull the trigger yet until we hear what the plan is for this adjustment.
Yeah, and I think that the other idea I had about this would be to add a condition in all our orders that makes it very clear that if something comes up and the applicant needs to do something, varies anyway from the plan, the burden is on the applicant to come to the commission and get something in writing about it. And, because things happen, there may be some, heavy equipment that's brought in and they can't make a turn where they thought they could, and they need to cut a tree, and you don't really want them to, they can't wait for several days with the equipment sitting there, and you don't want to, things can happen where you don't want to have a system that's so rigid, you can't handle some things. That may not be the best example, but, maybe not a whole tree, maybe a bush. But anyway, but just to be clear, to make it really clear that getting some documentation, burns on the applicant to do that, to get something in writing. Yeah.
It's very important, right?
And just adding that as a condition to all our orders, that should not be that difficult, is to put that in. Yeah.
And I can draft something even for our next meeting to take a look at, that, again, aside from any sort of other formal administrative approval documentation like that, we can do that now.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's fine to do that now. Yeah. I don't know, again, what's going to happen with this and what the timing would be, but anyway, but I think it's of interest to all commissions about, having this sort of sanctioned, and, obviously there's a downside to having it sanctioned too, because some commissions may have their protocols all set up, but anyway, yeah.
But it is interesting to look, I looked at a lot of different municipalities and how they deal with this, and especially how they, when it comes to their bylaws, the rules get a lot more flexy, because you are, and in terms of what you can approve. And there are towns that have given the entire town an order of conditions for knotweed removal and things like that, which is, there are towns that, where the administrative approval is fairly widespread, and they say you can remove up to this many trees, you can do this, and this, you can do this in the buffer zone as long as you sign off. So there's a wide range of, I think, levers that are available for us to pull and manipulate here, while still really doing the same thing that this commission has always done, but just finding a way to make it as easy as possible for the applicant to ask for and get approval for these things, but also to make our record keeping really streamlined and kind of help everybody, not only help commission, but help staff and help the applicants at the same time. And I think that probably, again, as Pam's saying, if we see where this is headed, I don't know, Pam, do you have an idea of when that legislation is getting voted on?
No, I don't. I think it'll be in this, before, I think at the end of June. Is it June 30th or the session? Maybe it's July 31st. Anyway, but I think, but it could be before then. I don't really know. My crystal ball is not great on that.
Sure.
And then it'll need regulations too. But I think it'll be, kind of become clear where things are sort of headed fairly soon after that.
Okay.
Other thoughts or comments by commissioners?
So this would be up to our discretion to, define the parameters entirely with no, external kind of approval.
Well, I think it depends what happens, if there are regulations, the regulations may specify, when you can do it, when you can't. So that may limit discretion. We have full discretion in our bylaw about what we do there.
And as it stands, now, most of the time when one of these decisions comes up, it has to do with approving what the Wetland Protection Act considers a minor exemption or a minor activity and exemption
Yeah.
anyway, or
Yeah.
something that really isn't even come up. They come for approval and it's not in a buffer zone or a wetland area.
I know, yeah.
And so that's the kind of stuff we're talking about now. But I think also in my reading of the Mass Ready Act, Pam, there seems like there's potentially room for that to get massaged and extended a bit. And we don't know exactly how that's all gonna.
Yeah, you don't know how it's
What
gonna
my
play out.
divine powers are going to be come June.
Yeah.
In terms of being able to approve things. So I think fleshing out, because likely almost certainly this will involve an adjustment of our own, not necessarily our bylaw, but some of the rules and regulations around it, in terms of whether that's documentation or submittables and things like that. So that's something that will require more formal review and vote somewhere down the line. But I think, waiting for some further guidance while I can start, putting some materials together or start thinking about what these kind of materials would be specific to our own bylaw versus the Wetland Protection Act.
Yeah.
Right. Both the Wetlands Protection Act regulations and our bylaw regulations have exemptions in them right now. And we've just never had a procedure for sort of documenting certain aspects of this. And it sounds like, they, as you're saying, they may be expanded, massaged, a little bit unclear, but, we ought to understand what the universe is and what we want it to be. And,
Sure. And my hope is something as close as possible to a checklist with a spot for a photo and a signature, you know what I mean? To make it as easy as
possible.
Really as cut and dry as possible, because if there's a lot of nuance, it shouldn't be administrative approval. It should be something we're talking about.
Yeah.
Right. Good. Well, and in the meantime, there's nothing to preclude us from adding some sort of a condition in our next order of conditions, as Pam is suggesting.
I think that's good. I think that'll help with it.
Documented.
Yeah.
And I think we can just have, that can take the form of essentially an email narrative versus a formal application. So then we have it attached to the file and then we can keep it going from there. But I think that's a great idea to adjust those our standard special conditions, in which we have something like 15 and then some we work in depending on the nature of the project. Great.
That sounds good to me. Any last thoughts on this topic? All right. Well, then thank you, Alex, for bringing this forward and moving it ahead a little bit here. I think we're all in agreement that it makes sense for us to have, good documentation on this issue. It will help everyone. So
I think it will yield, again, cleaner, better, more accurate info for everybody. So, and a relatively easy lift.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. And I don't have a staff update this week. A lot of these, a lot of the projects are asleep or we're awaiting stuff in the spring. So I'll do a more robust update on some upcoming projects from the town and DPW end at the next meeting. But that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Well, record time. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Nice.
Sam, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Sam. Let's see, going around. Werner.
Yes.
Sam.
Yes.
Pam.
Yes.
And I vote yes. So.
Did anyone need help shoveling? I got the truck here. I can swing by and
24 hours ago, I might have taken up on that.
yeah.
No.
All right. Well, I hope everyone stays safe and warm, and we'll see you at the next one.
You too.
Okay.
Well, everyone, take
Yeah.
care.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night.